Where's the library?
Lib Laugh Love with Ingrid and DT.
Lib Laugh Love, a podcast for bookworms by librarians. We're so excited to be talking about library stuff with library people, and I hope that includes you if you're watching this. So I'm Ingrid. This is ET, and we are librarians who are going to talk to you today about fictional libraries that we really want to visit. Did you have one to start us off?
So mine is from the second book in the Rebecca which was very important to me from the ages of 7 to now. And in the books, which if you're not familiar, the premise is it's a trio of orphans, the Baudelaires, and Violet, Gus, and Sunny are very intelligent and good people, but that doesn't stop them from being chased by an evil count who after their fortune. And he changes his disguise for every new setting that they're put into. So they get moved to various relatives and guardians, but they're never safe. And it's a very gloomy children's series, which I think is why I liked it. I was talking to my friend about this yesterday. I think we were both into sad stories. I really liked The Giving Tree. I liked The Velveteen Rabbit. I liked the original sad ending of Little Mermaid, where she dissolves in the ocean. If it made me feel something, I loved it.
Emo child, okay.
I was strange girl. So I liked these books because they were for strange children. And they also talk a lot about libraries and how important and special they are. And I don't think that I think that has some influence on me because this is where I am. And for each place that the children end up in, they find a different library or a collection of knowledge that helps them in some way. So the first one is the law library, and they use that to foil Count Olaf's plot. And that kind of happens over and over again. And then the second one, it's a herpetology library. So it's their Uncle Monty, who's the snake expert, and it's just very cool. And it's kind of, there's the library, but then there's also his collection of reptiles and amphibians, with things like the Virginia wolf snake that you can't let near a typewriter. So I think that might be my favorite fictional library.
I just found the first 8 of a series of unfortunate events in a little free library. So I'm gonna do a reread soon if you want to join me. It's gonna be really fun.
Because I was like telling my friend about it several years ago, and then we passed the little free library, and she was like, "Oh, there's the first 3," and she took them, and then she read them all.
I'm just saying, if anyone wants to join me on a reread of these items, we can totally do that.
Well,
So, okay, if we're thinking about like this kind of age, this is a fictional library that I think every bookworm knows and like thinks is iconic, which is of course Belle's library in The Beauty and the Beast. She has her like library slash maybe bookshop in the village, which is so just that sliding library ladder, like a friendly book person who's like, you know what, you love this, you've read it way too often, just keep it. Then there's the library in the Beast's mansion. It is stunning. Everything is wonderful. If you want to like secure your bookworm's affections for the ends of time, give her a library. So,
that one must have even bigger ones.
right?
Imagine the sliding thing.
I I have every day since I was like 5. But now that like I'm older and an adult and reading books, there are so many books that are now pulling from the Beauty and the Beast mythos, the Beauty and the Beast like general narrative. And every time I read one, I'm like, okay, if you're pulling from this, where's your library scene? You have to have one. I don't make the rules. There needs to be a library. So the ones that I'm thinking of right now, I haven't finished either of them yet. I'm like halfway through each. But we have A Curse So Dark and Lonely. And so far I've seen like really cozy, wonderful wardrobe that I would like to steal. She rides horses. There's like horse stables. She's pretending to be a princess. All of that is good. Where's the library? Where's the library?
It's not the Beauty and the Beast.
Yes. And then on Bookstagram, the one of the most like cult books / series is A Court of Thorns and Roses by Sarah J. Maas, which is very much a Beauty and the Beast retelling. And there is a library. She calls it a study, and it's got like candles everywhere and like magically lit candles by the wave of a hand because the guy's a fairy. The curse in this is that they're all cursed to like wear masquerade masks forever. I don't know. There's probably more to it because we're from like the perspective of Farah, who's very limited in terms of what she understands about fairies and what she understands about magic, and doesn't yet really know how to read. She can like kind of read and write on a very like basic level, but she was in the library trying to write letters to her family to warn them about this like magical plague that makes people look very cool and mysterious. And she had like a list of words that she didn't understand from a book that she was reading and that she wanted to look up like the pronunciation and the definition of, which is awesome. Like, go her, you know, especially if that's something that she finds as a shortcoming in herself to like better yourself and do reading and do writing and whatever. At the same time, like the library gets like very little description, which I think is wrong based in the type of world that they are building here. What the heck? You are a Beauty and the Beast retelling. You must give me more library content. The thing that gets the most description in the library is a mural along the back wall that like depicts the history of fairy. And I'm like, but what about the books? Maybe both of those places will get to the books and get to the library and like build upon it, but so far I haven't had that moment, that iconic Beauty and the Beast must-have moment.
The opening of the doors and
the joy on her face.
How do you feel about the argument that he already had the library, so it's not like that great again?
Well, then I would argue that they are more alike in what they value and what they care about.
Yeah.
That's better. That means they're actually compatible and not just buying each other's affection.
I always like the scene where it's unclear if he never learned how to read or if he's just forgotten. But, you know.
Or if he can't with his beastly eyes, because can dogs read?
Not that I know of.
Ugh, Beauty and the Beast. Do you have another library?
Another one? Well, it's the one that comes to mind because I just finished it, the Library of Mount Char. It's actually a library that I would not want to visit, but I kind of would. But if I went,
as a spectator, not as a character in the book.
Yeah, it's a very dangerous place. It's not really on Earth. It's in another dimension or another physical space, and it's so in the Library of Mount Char, a godlike person has captured them reads all of his books on like war and becomes like an expert fighter. Another one learns all of the languages in the world, including languages of animals and of the wind. One reads his books about healing, and so she can heal anything and bring back the dead. So, but he's also terrifying because he is a god, and so he's very cruel at times, and the children react in different ways. I don't want to give too much away.
Because I need to read this book.
You should read it. I also was surprised because it's a lot gorier than anything I usually read. So some parts I was like, oh my god, what just happened? But I liked it, I think. And so this library is vast because it contains all of human knowledge and all beyond human knowledge of the universe, and even like a little model of the universe. Like, I think the universe is contained within the library, and you go up a huge staircase all the way to the top, and you can just like know what the universe like happens around.
The Dewey Decimal System controls the universe, is what you're trying to tell me? If you mess it up, you mess with the universe?
Potentially, yes.
Oh my god.
Really cool. It was really well described. If I were to go there, I would die. Like, literally.
There is that.
So, yeah. It's a library that I would want to go to also.
I see your book that I haven't read, and I raise you a book that I don't think you've read either. So I got the English edition of A Winter's Promise. Have you read it yet? Want to swap? Yeah. Okay, cool. See you on Wednesday. So the library in this one gets very little time, but I do think that the premise of it is really cool. So there's this whole scene where our main character is pretending to be the servant of someone else because she's trying to avoid court machinations and like crazy stuff. So her mistress sends her to get something from the library to like read her books of poetry. And she walks into the library and she's like, wait a minute, this is not the library. So it's a separate like pocket library that can only really be opened by the owner of the house, who like controls all of the mirages that are around. And it's more of an archive kind of feel. So it's like the rare books, it's the different locations in this world, which I think is if like the world that we inhabit now like actually exploded and turned into like little like chunks of earth that become their own independent places, planet things. But each one of these little chunks has a family spirit, which is kind of like a godlike figure. So our main character, her family spirit is very dedicated to like the study of the stars, the study of the heavens, like very uninvolved, very like removed from the family, revered but not part of their descendants. And on the other place, the family spirit is overly involved and like is the center of the court. And all of the family spirits have like books that they want to figure out what they say. They don't know what it says. They don't know what they're made of. They're like, whoa. So there's this whole like mystery about the books and what they could say. And that's where the archive comes in. But as soon as like the owner of the house leaves the room, like the whole space just locks down. And it like kind of doesn't exist. It's like a pocket universe within the universe. Which I thought was really cool. And that happens in like the second half of the book, so it'll take you a while to get there, and you may forget that I told you about it by the time you get there, which is good.
Forgetting already. It's already gone. Yeah, I need to read them. I read the Along.
Okay, That's, you're feeding right into my thing here. I loved the Circle of Magic books. So I think that people who read and loved the Alana books are the target audience for the Mirror Visitor verse.
Ooh, good.
Because there's magic. Magic exists. Magic is like part of the story. But, and I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, because I liked Circle of Magic way better, but it feels like the court and like the way that the court and the world works is more what is fueling the plot than the existence of magic and like things you can do with it.
Okay, I love that. I love that.
Do you have another library?
No, but I was thinking about little genre. Oh my goodness. No, you really shook me up. I was thinking about like how bookstore books are kind of a subgenre.
I think we should definitely do an episode on that as well because I have thoughts. Can I tell you everything else on my list?
Yeah.
Well, actually, wait, I have one to start with that I think you could also talk about.
Oh yeah, okay, the library there. Oh, that was so cute.
So this book is Kate Kleiss and M. Sarah Kleiss, who does the illustration. They're a sister duo who writes books for kind of middle grade, I would say. And this was their most recent. We picked up a copy at the American Library Association midwinter. And this feels like a real school library. She has this, which is like it's the Green Dot collection, which is books that you can just take without having to check them out if there are topics that you're maybe a little bit more embarrassed about. And like just hearing how the kids think about reading and think about their library now that there's someone in charge of it who gives more than one shit about them is wonderful. It made me so happy because this feels like a realistic look at libraries and how they fit into a community. And it also has a really fun like mystery element to it.
Yes, and I love how the librarians are standing up for the kids' rights to individuality and just like expression and creative and just go with people. It's so good.
So our recommendation there is don't check out this book. So good. So, okay. I also have the book Magic for Liars, which I read recently. It is written by a non-binary author. It's stunning. I love it. So the library and like the magic is the backdrop for this hard-boiled detective story. Someone has died at a magic school, and so they hire Ivy Gamble, who is a private investigator, to come and investigate at the school. And they pick her because she's not magical, but her sister is, and her sister is a teacher at the school. And she sets up in the library to like interview all the students and like interview the teachers. And Ivy's wonderful, first of all. She is very fun as a character. She is very fun to like be in the head of. And the library, it feels like a normal library, but at the same time, it's magical because the books have their own language, and you can't like their own spoken language, and you can't actually like understand what they're saying while you're listening to them because it's like book, not thing. But they start like whispering, like fluttering pages almost, but like also kind of sounds like words if you're in their presence. Whenever something like extra ambiance happens, or like when you're on the precipice of figuring out what happens, it's like the books start going insane. Just very cool. And I mean, I also really appreciated this one because I've seen it compared to a series that we are not naming in this video and on this channel because we say trans rights. And having this as like a series that felt kind of like that, but was written by someone who uses they them pronouns, who identifies as non-binary, who doesn't shit on the existence of other humans, just made me really happy.
Sounds good.
and I want to read everything that they've written. So, highly recommend. Next up, I have, I mean, you should have seen this one coming from a mile away, but Pride and Prejudice.
Okay, yeah.
I have so many copies of Pride and Prejudice, it's absurd. But
Pride and Prejudice is in the library. Like, there's a library in
Netherfield says the library at Netherfield, I've heard, is one of the finest in the country. Sign me up. Personal libraries count.
absolutely counts.
I just love Pride and Prejudice. I'm such a fangirl. Here we are.
Married straight into a library.
I did. Is that wrong? I think it's the only reason to get married.
Yeah, it's for a woman period when you were going to get married.
That's all. Then, in addition to like real feeling libraries, there's Don't Check Out This Book. The Time Traveler's wife, the time traveler, is an archivist in a library in Chicago. And they talk about the Tuesday, Saturday schedule, and like they talk about things, and I was just like, I feel seen. This is great. I mean, that book also does have its issues in that I wish I had read it when I was 16 and thought that like all encompassing, like very codependent, um, there's so much. Have you read it? Are you going to? The Heteros Are Out in this one. I don't think you should read it. So the main character is a girl, woman at different points in the book, and like through her whole life, Henry, the time traveler, has been there. So she's kind of been groomed since she was a child, and I've seen arguments saying that it's creepy. Which I'm not gonna. I didn't fully get that when I was in the book, but at the same time, like, I'm not gonna discount anyone who says that it was. But that like wasn't the real issue I had with it. The real issue I had with it was that Claire has like one female friend. It does not pass the Bechdel test. And the female friend takes Henry, the time traveling husband, to the opera one day, and then afterwards they go to a coffee shop because the friend wants, I can't even remember her name, like she's a non-entity. It's awful. She takes Henry to a coffee shop because she's like, hey, we need to talk. You know that my husband has been in love with Claire, like her husband who's friends with Claire, because Claire has like two friends. She's like, my husband's been in love with Claire for like as long as he and I have ever been like dating together, as long as we've known Claire. If anything happens to you, he's going to try and move in and like take your wife. And I'm like, what is this? What is this? What the fuck? Like, surely you should have broken up with this man if that's what he is like. And also, maybe you should have brought this up with your friend, your best friend, Claire, in order to like, you know, I don't know, ask her thoughts on it, like if she feels safe in his company, like meanwhile the friend and the husband have like multiple children, and oh my god, it was so weird. It was so weird. But the librarian, the like description of like library life and all of that is very very accurate, so I like appreciated that a lot. And I do want to go visit this library, which I think does exist. Sounds beautiful. Other like realistic ones I have. Okay, this one is one I haven't read, but it's all the way across the room, so I'm not gonna grab it. The Book Charmer sounds a little bit like Inkheart in that the librarian has special powers to match up like the right book with the right reader, and like that's why she became a librarian. So I'm reading that one eventually. It's also got a romance involved in it, so I'm like,
Our is 335.
Yes.
It's really funny.
Then I also have the library book, which I haven't read yet, which is nonfiction based on the LA Library fire, which should be very interesting. Then The Borrower, which is by Rebecca Mackay, which I also haven't read yet, but I've had for a very long time, which is like a children's and teen librarian finds one of her favorite patrons in the shelves. He's been having some issues at home, and that his mom and his dad have signed him up for weekly anti-gay classes. So she, the librarian, at once gets kidnapped and is a kidnappee, in that she and this kid go on a road trip. And I think I'm going to over-identify with the librarian.
Yeah, when it's a librarian character, it's like, I'm gonna look at my list. I was like, I must have read more.
So the other one that I have is the Book of Speculation, which I read a really long time ago. But have you ever read that? Oh, it's really fun. And the cover makes you want to read it. So it's on the cover, it's a woman holding a stack of books. And it's just kind of like her dress and her books as the cover. And the main character is a librarian. He and his sister are at the end of a long line of a family that started, I think, in like circusry. So the women in their family are seen to be like cursed, and they die really tragically and really young. So our main character is like, I don't believe in this. I'm a librarian. I am very like organized, and my sister's not going to die. And she shows up and like has been part of a circus for a little bit. And he's like, what the hell? I thought we were not going to do this. I thought we were not going to do this. And she starts acting super strangely, and he like finds, again, it's been a while since I've read it, but I think he finds like their family history, like their book, and it's interwoven between like past and present of the circus and him in their childhood home, which is very rickety, on like this point that drops off into a cliff into like the ocean. And the house is eroding, and like it might not be safe anymore. And at one point, like the library where he works it's like in the middle of a storm, and like they take refuge there, and it's very good. Recommend. I also have this whole book stack on my Bookstagram the other day, because I have now been on Bookstagram for over a year, which is crazy. So I have this whole stack on my account of books that feature libraries and librarians, mentioning some of the ones that we talked about. So we have The Borrower, The Book Stops Here, which is a bookmobile mystery in England. So yes, I had to buy that. Then we have The Archivist Story, The Librarian of Auschwitz, The Book Charmer, The Book of God and Physics, The Historian, and The Library Book. And then one last honorable mention, because I haven't read this in a while and I don't know if the library is actually a big like part of it, but I bought a new version of Carmilla, which is a lesbian vampire story from Ireland. So when I'm done with it, you need to read it. But this version is edited by Carmen Maria Machado, who did Her Body and Other Stories. I have it on my shelves. I'm like really excited to read it. And this is the illustration of the library on the inside, which is stunning. So this is my like first spooky read of the season, and then I'll pass it along to you. Have any other books about libraries? Because I think that's why you originally brought out your...
It is.
Oh, I love it!
So I'm realizing this is a bookstore. It's called Bookstore, but it's a library. They're all borrowing.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Mr. Penumbras is definitely a bookstore. How did I not think of that one? Oh my gosh, I love that book.
Yeah, it's a library, but it's called a bookstore. But
Well, no, I think the bookstore, it is a bookstore, but we don't see people buying books because he has the overnight shift. And the borrowers are like part of a special club in Mr. Penumbra's 24-hour bookstore.
Yeah. Well, I read it. I read it in March, which feels like
3 years ago.
yes. So this young man gets laid off his job, right? Yeah. And he starts working at this very weird little bookstore. Um, and at first his job seems to be pretty easy. He just kind of sits there, and it's vast. It goes up very high, but all he has to do is like find the books that people are requesting. But then he realizes that the books are kind of strange and written in cozy languages he doesn't understand.
And there's a pattern to like what order people check the books out in.
There's a pattern. Because all these people are trying to solve something, and it's not clear what. They're part of like a secret society.
Although later in the book, which might be kind of spoilery for people, but like when they go on their whole cross-country adventure, there is sort of an underground library that they go into where the books are like chained, and the members all have to wear like the same cloak when they're in there, and I think they wear gloves, which is very like archivy of them. So that is definitely a book that belongs on this list. Well remembered.
My goodness, reading. Like, I think he wants to sell books, but it's really a front for this weird secret society. It was fun.
It was so fun. Love that book. So these are our top libraries that we want to visit in the fictional realm. If you have any libraries you'd like to add to our list or books that you think we should read, please leave them in a comment down below or shoot us an email at liblaughlovepod@gmail.com. That's us. And that's it. So until next week, we post podcasts every Monday at 7. Sometimes we have little bonuses that go up whenever I get done editing them. So if you want to subscribe either to my channel, which is Random Librarian, or our shared podcast channel that is Lib Laugh Love on YouTube. And we're figuring out how to get this onto a podcast hosting service, but it's complicated. Who knew? Until next time, happy reading. On that note, we'll see you guys next week.